Hi guys, we are carrying on today with Fantastic Mr. So before we begin, think back to the text you've read earlier in the week. Okay, recap in your head what has happened. You might want to read the summary that you wrote as part of yesterday's lesson to help you with that. Okay, let's continue the story. Today we're looking at chapter 5 and 6. And this is your reminder: as soon as a new page comes onto the video, pause it and try and read it yourself, or read it on the screen, on your computer screen, or if you've downloaded the text yourself. Chapter 5, The Terrible Tractors. As the sun rose the next morning, Boggis and Bunce and Bean were still digging. They had dug a hole so deep you could have put a house into it. But they had not yet come to the end of the fox's tunnel. They were all very tired and cross. "Dang and blast," said Boggis. "Whose rotten idea was this?" "Bean's idea," said Bunce. Boggis and Bunce both stared at Bean. Bean took another swig of cider, then put the flask back into his pocket without offering it to the others. "Listen," he said angrily. "I want that fox. I'm going to get that fox. I'm not giving in till I've strung him up over my front porch, dead as a dumpling." "We can't get him by digging, that's for sure," said the fat Boggis. "I've had enough of digging." Bunce, the little pot-bellied dwarf, looked up at Bean and said, "Have you got any more stupid ideas then?" "What?" said Bean. "I can't hear you." Bean never took a bath. He never even washed. As a result, his ear holes were clogged with all kinds of muck and wax and bits of chewing gum and dead flies and stuff like that. This made him deaf. "Speak louder," he said to Bunce, and Bunce shouted back, "Got any more stupid ideas?" Bean rubbed the back of his neck with a dirty finger. He had a boil coming there and it itched. "What we need on this job," he said, "is machines. Mechanical shovels. We'll have him out in 5 minutes with mechanical shovels." This was a pretty good idea, and the other two had to admit it. "All right then," Bean said, taking charge. "Boggis, you stay here and see the fox doesn't escape. Bunce and I will go and fetch our machinery. If he tries to get out, shoot him quick." The long, thin Bean walked away. The tiny Bunce trotted after him. The fat Boggis stayed where he was with his gun pointing at the foxhole. Soon 2 enormous caterpillar tractors with mechanical shovels on their front ends came clanking into the wood. Bean was driving one, Bunce the other. The machines were both black. They were murderous, brutal-looking monsters. "Here we go then," shouted Bean. "Death to the fox," shouted Bunce. The machines went to work, biting huge mouthfuls of soil out of the hill. The big tree under which Mr. Fox had dug his hole in the first place was toppled like a matchstick. On all sides, rocks were sent flying and trees were falling, and the noise was deafening. Down in the tunnel the foxes crouched, listening to the terrible clanging and banging overhead. "What's happening, Dad?" cried the small foxes. "What are they doing?" Mr. Fox didn't know what was happening or what they were doing. "It's an earthquake," cried Mrs. Fox. "Look," said one of the small foxes, "our tunnel's got shorter. I can see daylight." They all looked around, and yes, the mouth of the tunnel was only a few feet away from them now, and in the circle of daylight beyond they could see the 2 huge black tractors almost on top of them. "Tractors!" shouted Mr. Fox. "And mechanical shovels! Dig for your lives! Dig! Dig!" Chapter 6, The Race. Now there began a desperate race, the machines against the foxes. In the beginning, the hill looked like this. After about an hour, as the machines bit away more and more soil from the hilltop, it looked like this. Sometimes the foxes would gain a little ground and the clanking noises would grow fainter, and Mr. Fox would say, "We're going to make it, I'm sure we are." But then a few moments later the machines would come back at them, and the crunch of the mighty shovels would get louder and louder. Once the foxes actually saw the sharp metal edge of one of the shovels as it scraped the earth just behind. "Keep going, my darlings," panted Mr. Fox. "Don't give up." "Keep going," the fat boggis shouted to Bunce and Bean. "We'll get him any moment now." "Have you caught sight of him yet?" Bean called back. "Not yet," shouted Boggis, "but I think you're close." "I'll pick him up with my bucket," shouted Bunce. "I'll chop him to pieces." But by lunchtime the machines were still at it, and so were the poor foxes. The hill now looked like this. The farmers didn't stop for lunch. They were too keen to finish the job. "Hey there, Mr. Fox," yelled Bunce, leaning out of his tractor. "We're coming to get you now." "You've had your last chicken," yelled Boggis. "You'll never come prowling around my farm again." A sort of madness had taken hold of the three men. The tall, skinny Bean and dwarfish, pot-bellied Bunce were driving their machines like maniacs, racing the motors and making the shovels dig at a terrific speed. The fat Boggis was hopping about like a dervish and shouting, "Faster, faster!" By 5 o'clock in the afternoon, this is what had happened to the hill. The hole the machines had dug was like the crater of a volcano. It was such an extraordinary sight that crowds of people came rushing out from the surrounding villages to have a look. They stood on the edge of the crater and stared down at Boggis and Bunce and Bean. "Hey there, Boggis! What's going on?" "We're after a fox." "You must be mad!" The people jeered and laughed. But this only made the three farmers more furious and more obstinate and more determined than ever not to give up until they had caught the fox. Okay, your 5 quick round questions and the sentence stems are: question 1. What word does Boggis use to describe Bean's idea? Question 2. Why can't Bean hear what the other 2 farmers are saying? Question 3. Who was the race between? Question 4. What do you think the phrase "bit away more and more soil" means on page 25? And question 5. Why did the surrounding villagers laugh and jeer at the 3 farmers at the end of the chapter? Pause this now and have a go at answering those in your books. Okay, well done, guys. So Boggis uses the word "rotten" to describe Bean's idea. Bean can't hear what the other farmers are saying because his ear holes were clogged, if you remember, with all sorts of muck and wax, meaning he couldn't hear. Roald Dahl paints a pretty grim picture, doesn't he, of Bean, saying that he doesn't wash. He doesn't sound very hygienic. Question 3. The race was between the machines and the foxes. Question 4. I think "bit away more and more soil" means that I think Roald Dahl means that the diggers took a little bit more soil away every time. Okay, and question 5. The villagers laughed and jeered at the 3 farmers because they thought they were mad for digging a hole that big just to catch a fox. They actually say, don't they, if we go back to that page, "You must be mad." They think they're mad. I think they're going a little bit crazy. Okay, so your brain power questions are: question 6, how does Roald Dahl make us dislike the farmers? Can you use some examples from the text to support this? Okay. Question 7, why does Roald Dahl call the tractors murderous, brutal-looking monsters? How does he keep this metaphor going? Okay. And then question 8 is choose one of the 3 farmers. So you could have Bunce, Boggis, or Bean. Okay, and write 4 sentences to describe their characters. You can use the text from today. Also use from yesterday and Monday to help you with this. Okay, remember all the lovely adjectives that Roald Dahl has used throughout to paint a picture of these characters. As the reader, we feel we've got a really good understanding of their characters now. So if you need to, use your text and go back over the last 6 chapters, picking one farmer, and go back. If you want, a really good technique would be to highlight any information that you are given about the farmer you've chosen, and then I want you to write 4 sentences to describe that character. Okay. pause while you have a go at that. Okay, good job, guys. So, question 6. Some of the ideas that you might have included in. How does Roald Dahl make us dislike the farmers? Okay, so there are lots of examples here. I've not been able to choose just one page to show you. I've copied and pasted different parts from throughout the 2 chapters that we've read. So we've got Bunce, the little pot-bellied dwarf, looked up at Bean and said, "Have you got any more stupid ideas?" This bit makes us dislike the farmers because they're not very kind to each other, are they? We know from that song earlier by the children that they're not very kind, or that in fact they're actually quite mean. But this kind of solidifies that. It confirms that they're not even kind to people that they're working with. They should be working as a team, but in fact they're being quite nasty to each other. Boggis and Bunce both stared at Bean. Bean took another swig of cider and put the flask back into his pocket without offering it to the others. That shows us that they're also quite selfish. Okay? That makes us dislike somebody if they're selfish. Here, we've got that little extract that we just talked about, saying Bean never took a bath. We get the impression, not just of Bean, but of the other, I don't know about you, but me as the reader, I'm getting the impression that the other 2 farmers aren't actually that clean either. So that makes me dislike them. I wouldn't want to be friends with them if they didn't wash or they weren't very clean. So yeah. And then also the people jeered and laughed, but this only made the 3 farmers more furious and more obstinate and more determined than ever not to give up until they'd caught the fox. So again, we're getting through that, we're getting the impression that they're really quite determined and they are not going to stop until that fox is dead. Okay, so we've got that they're unkind to each other and the foxes, they're selfish, they're unclean and unpleasant to be around, and that they're angry and they're determined to kill the foxes. So all of these are just some ideas that you might have picked up on or you might have used to describe what Roald Dahl does to make us dislike the farmers. Okay. Lovely words. We've got clanging, we've got banging. Let's have a quick look. We've got another here, where was it? Clanking. Okay, so we're given lots and lots of noises, and monsters might make those sorts of noises as well. Okay, so all of those things keep that metaphor going, and the fact that they just work so fast and that they're creating so much carnage and so much mess, really. That gives us the impression that they're murderous and they don't care what damage they're causing. They are here to do a job. Okay, and then your last question for today, and again, there's no right answer for that, whether you choose Boggis or Bunce or Bean. You have got to choose one of them and have a go at writing 4 sentences to describe their character. If you wanted to, you could do it as like a wanted poster. It's completely up to you, as long as you write us those 4 sentences.
Hi class 4, I hope everybody was okay with yesterday's learning. I'm going to go through the answers with you now. So the first question we had was to put the amounts into ascending order, which hopefully everyone remembered meant from smallest to largest. So you could have done it in a number of different ways. You might have converted the numbers into pounds and pence, or you might have converted them all into pence and then put them in a place value grid, or you might have done it another way. However you did it is absolutely fine, but the answer you should have got for number 1 is 52 pence, 137 pence, 1,092 pence, £11.21. Hopefully we all got that one right. Number 2 asked you to put the numbers in descending order, so from highest to lowest. Again, you could have done it in a number of ways, as long as your answer was 1,437 pence, £13.47, £1.43 and 134 pence. If you've got stuck with any of those and you're not sure how, have a look back at yesterday's video, and if you're still stuck, just send me an email and I'm more than happy to go through it with you again. Okay, So for the next thing, we had to fill in the missing equation. So we talked about the fact that this means less than. Oh, and then you can't see my mouse. So this one means less than. So yellow is less than. We've got a green for our greater than or more than, and then we've got our equal sign, okay? So let's have a look at the first one. It was £2.71 is either less than, greater than, or equal to 2,071 pence. Now I'm hoping you would have either converted them so that they were both pence or both pounds, just so it was a little bit easier for you. If we convert them both to pounds, we would have had £20 here and 71 pence, meaning that this one was greater than the other. Sorry, yes, this was greater than this one, but it's asking this one for this one. So we would have put this symbol in. So £2.71 is less than 2,071 pence. Okay, hopefully you've all got that one. The next one, we've got £13.11, and if we convert this one, we've got £13 and 1 penny. So that means that the first one is greater than that one. So £13.11 is greater than 1,301 pence. Okay, hopefully we got that one. And the last one, if we convert this into pounds, we've got £35 and 43 pence. So you should have simply put an equal sign in there. Okay, again, if you were stuck, have another look at the video from yesterday, or if you're still really confused, send me an email. And the last question was asking, what would you rather have? 5 50-pence coins or 12 20-pence coins? And I wanted you to explain to me why. So 5 50-pence coins, we could do 5 times 50, which would have meant that we had £2.50. Okay, £2.50. And 12 20-pence coins, so 12 times 20. So we would have had £2 and 40 pence. So you could have worked that out however you wanted, maybe draw, you might have drawn the coins, you might have written them out, I don't mind how you did it, but hopefully you would have all agreed that you would rather have had that 5 50-pence coins, because it would have meant that you would have had more money. So your answer might have looked something like, I would rather have had 5 50-pence coins because it would have been more than 12 20-pence coins, and put the values in. However you've answered that is great. I hope you all found that one okay, because that was a little bit trickier than a normal do it, so well done. Okay then, so looking at yesterday's Secure It, hopefully everyone had a go at this one. Teddy, Dora and Jack are buying toys. Teddy said that he has £5.43 and Dora has 534 pence. So Dora also has £5.34, you might have converted that, or Teddy has 543 pence. It doesn't matter which way you look at it. Jack says that he's got more money than Dora but less than Teddy, and how much money could Jack have? So if I were you, I would have converted them both, so maybe have the £5.43 and the £5.34 and just write all the numbers in between. I'm hoping that everybody got that. So if you've got the following numbers or a mixture of those or all of them, amazing, well done you, that is super. So today's learning objective is to understand how to estimate money using rounding. So we're just going to refresh our memory on rounding. I know we're all awesome at this, but we'll just check that we're happy. And then we're going to use that knowledge to help us estimate money. Okay, so looking at different amounts, putting them together and see how we get on. Okay. The first thing I would like you to do today then is have a go at rounding the numbers to the nearest 100, okay? So I'm not going to talk about how we do that, I just want you to have a go. What can you remember about rounding? Pause me, and then when you're ready, come back and we will go through it together, all right? Okay, so I'm hoping that everybody remembered that when we're rounding to the nearest 100, we look at the tenths column there, the tens, okay? And in our tens column, we're looking, is the number more than or less than 5? If it's more than 5, we're going to round up, and if it's less than 5, we're going to round down, okay? So for 126, we looked, we've got a 2 in our tens column. That's less than 5, so we rounded down to 100. If we look at this one, 386, 8's more than 5, so we round up, okay? And again, if it's a 5 or more, you round up. So again, 655's rounded to 700. Hopefully we've all got that. If you haven't, just go back over, have another listen. Can you see where you went wrong? Okay, so we're going to have a look at rounding 1.7 to the nearest whole number. The first thing that we need to do when rounding decimals is decide which two whole numbers this decimal sits between. So have a think, 1.7, what are the two whole numbers? Hopefully you decided it was 1 and 2, okay? Because 1.7, 1 comes first, 1.7 and then 2. We then need to think about the middle point. Now, we've looked at this before, guys, and hopefully you will remember that the middle point is the 0.5. So for this one, the middle point would be 1.5. So we then need to decide where 1.7 sits on this line. Okay, so it obviously goes after 1.5, because 1.5, 1.6, 1.7. Hopefully we all remember the rules that if it is more than 5, I'm going to highlight this here, more than 0.5, we round up, and if it is less than 0.5, we round down. So in this case, 1.7 is more than, so we would then round up to 2. So the answer to that original question was 2. Okay, so the thought of rounding money to the nearest pound might sound a little bit like, what? Where do we start? But because we know how to round decimals to the nearest whole number, that is all we're doing with money, okay? So I want you to round £4.89 to the nearest pound. I'm just going to highlight this number here, right? Just as a little clue. I'd like you to pause me, have a go, and then when you're ready, put me back on and I'll go through the answer with you. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is think about the £2 that are either side of £4.89, and hopefully we all decided that was £4 and £5, same as if we were talking about a whole number. 4.89, 5. Hopefully everybody got that. We then need to think about that middle point. So for this instance, it would be £4.50 or 4.5, same as we did on the last slide. Okay, guys, hopefully we are starting to see a pattern. We then need to put £4.89 on this number line. So it goes there. The reason I highlighted that 8 is because, again, we're simply looking at our tenths column, okay? Is it more than or less than 5? The 8 is more than the 5, so we round up. So the answer would be, it's rounded up to £5, okay? I'm hoping we all got that. If we didn't, don't panic. It's the first time we've done it. Okay, so I'm going to make it a little bit trickier this time. I'd like you to round 711 pence to the nearest pound. I've put pence, but think about what we've talked about this week, converting those pence to pounds. That will help you. Pause me, have a go, and then when you're ready, come back, okay? Okay, so I'm hoping to make it easier, you have converted that 711 pence to £7 and 11 pence. Right, then we need to think about the whole pounds that are either side of this. So we've got £7 here, and we've got £8 over here. We know that our middle point has got to have 5 in the tenths column, so it's going to be £7.50. And then looking at our tenths column here, we've got a 1. Now I know that 1 is less than 5, so we're going to round down. So it would be £7. Hopefully we all got that. Okay, so this is where it gets a little bit trickier. This is what we're looking at today. We've rounded our money, and now I want us to use that to help us estimate. Now, I'm hoping that we can all remember that we've done estimation before, and it's all about making a really good, strong guess, okay? Now, to do that, we're going to round. So, for example, we're going to round 468 pence to the nearest pound. That's the first stage. So you're rounding to the nearest pound. So we know that 468 pence is the same as £4 and 68 pence, right? Now we're looking at this column, that's 6, remember, is bigger than 5, so it means we're rounding up, and the next pound is £5. So that one becomes £5. Now go to our ice cream. We're looking at this column. Again, it's a 6, so we're going to round up, and the next pound would be £2 because we've got, if we're thinking about that number line, we've got either £1 on one end, £2 the next, and we're rounding up. So then we're left with 5 add 2, which I think we would all agree looks a lot easier than this original sum. 5 add 2 is £7, so your estimated answer would be £7. Okay, it's as simple as that. We'll do another one all together because although I say it's as simple as that, I understand it's not that simple. It is really, there's a lot to it, so don't worry if you're not getting it straight away. We're going to do another example and you've got some to do and you'll do it. So hopefully it will all become a lot clearer. Okay, so this one, James wants to buy a pair of shorts for £4.54 and a t-shirt for £5.28. What does each amount round to? So that's the first thing we need to do. What does each amount round to? So if we think about £4.54, we know that 4 is the pound before it, 5 is the pound after it. We're looking at our tenths column. Oh, it's a 5, so we're going to round up. So rounded to the nearest pound, that would be £5. Okay, and then he's got a t-shirt for £5.28. So again, we need to think about the pound that comes first. It's a 5. And the pound that comes after is 6. We're looking at our tenths column. So it's got a 2. So 2 is less than 5. So we're rounding down to 5. Okay. So again, we've got £5. So we've done the first part of the problem. And the next part is he has £12. How much change will he receive approximately? Now that word is basically asking you to estimate. It's giving an approximate figure. So it's not exactly correct, but it's around about. So we've got a 5 and a 5, and if we add those together, we have 10. And he's got £12. So how much change will he receive? We need to do 12, take away 10, equals 2. So your answer to that question would be £2, okay? I'm hoping, guys, that makes sense because you're going to be doing it on your do it. If you are panicking and thinking this is really hard, I'm really not sure about it, I want you to rewatch the video, see if that goes in a little bit more, and if still then it's just a little bit too tricky, send me an email because I understand this is not easy and we're not in class together and we're not able to practically explore it. So you're just having to listen to me, and I know sometimes that can be a little bit tricky. So please just do your best, but feel free to email me. I am there to help. So the first part of your do it, I'm just asking you to simply practice your rounding skills. So you're going to round these numbers to the nearest pounds. So if you're a little bit thinking, oh, I can't remember how to do that, go back to the start of the video because that's what we did there. Okay, you're then going on to estimate the answer to the following sums. So for each question, you need to round them to the nearest pound, and then you need to add them together, and that's your answer. Okay, so again, we've done it in the video. Rewind if you're confused and have a look. It was the ice cream and pizza question that will help you with this. And then finally, I've done you a bit of a word problem, which is similar to the one that we've just done. So Jenny wants to buy a new game, which costs £6.13, and a new book, which costs £4.82. So you need to round each of these to the nearest pound, okay? So you can do that, I know you can. And then she has £15. How much change will she receive approximately? So remember that really good guess, that estimate. So once you've rounded these two numbers, you're going to need to add them and take them away from 50, okay? I know you can do this, guys. It sounds trickier than it is. And then onto your secure it. Katie has 7,049 pence. She says, my amount rounds to £69. Do you agree? Explain why. So the best thing you can do first is convert this to pounds and pence, and then have a look, see if she's right. Any problems, guys, you've got my email. Just send me an email. I'm more than happy to go through it. I don't know how many times I can say that. Please get in touch. That's what I'm here for. Good luck. I hope you find it okay, and any problems, I will hear from you soon. We'll go through the answers tomorrow, and as I've said all week, if you want them before that, just send them over and I will check them. Okay, best of luck, guys. I'll speak to you tomorrow. Bye.
Hi everybody, welcome to our writing session for today. We're going to start off our writing session just like we did yesterday by spotting those mistakes that have been made. So we're off to our sentence doctor. Our two sentences today that we're going to be looking at are, why do I need to do my homework? And what a beautiful day, Peter said. And you'll notice here that we're looking for 5 punctuation mistakes. Can you spot them all? We're looking at capital letters, full stops, speech marks, apostrophes, it might be question marks, commas, any punctuation that's missing from these sentences, and we're looking for 5 bits that are missing. What I'd like you to do is pause the video, copy out those 2 sentences, but correct those 5 mistakes, then come back to me ready for the answers. Okay, super. Do you think you've got all 5? Let's have a look. So these are our punctuation mistakes for today. We were missing that capital letter at the start of the sentence, a nice easy one to spot. For why? The I was wrong. Lots of people do this in their writing, and they did a little lowercase I and not a capital. We all know that it's a personal pronoun, it needs a capital. And why do I need my homework? Of course, is a question, so it needed a question mark at the end. So 3 pieces in that. We've also got that keyword we had yesterday with said, so we know we needed speech marks. We even included 1 set of speech marks, but we hadn't started them off. So we've got what a beautiful day, and it's an exclamation sentence, what a beautiful day, so it needs an exclamation mark. Well done to you if you got all 5 of those today. Let's have a look what we're going to be working on for the rest of this week. So today we're learning to understand the purpose and the structure of a discussion text. Now I know for lots of you discussion texts are going to be absolutely brand new. So we're going to have a look in lots of detail today about what that's about. But this question of should Fox be shot is something that we're going to be thinking about all the way through our next few days. So my first question to you is, what do you think? So we've got our story so far, and we know that Fox is stealing things from the farmers and that the farmers have tried to shoot him. So can you have a little think for me? Do you think Fox should be shot? And what's your reason for that? So just pause the video, have a think, and then come back to me. Okay, so there are loads of reasons, both why Fox should be shot, but why he shouldn't be as well. So you might have thought of some of these reasons. So if you were the farmer and you were thinking he should be shot, you'd be thinking because he's stealing the chickens, because he's frightening the chickens, maybe because he's taking things that don't belong to him, he's stealing might be your answer. But maybe you thought, no, Fox shouldn't be shot, and you were thinking like Mrs. Fox, and you were saying no, he's only collecting food for his family would starve without it. Foxes are supposed to eat chickens, so why would we want to stop them? So there are loads of reasons, both why he should be shot maybe and why he shouldn't, which is why we need a discussion text, and we're going to have a little bit of a look at that. So today's focus is to understand the purpose and the structure of a discussion text. So we're going to be writing one about should Fox be shot, and we're going to use a discussion, or what we call a balanced argument. That's when there is a question that's posed to us that's got some reasons why it should happen and some reasons why it shouldn't happen, and we're going to share both sides of that argument. So the discussion is structured like this. It's a bit of an introduction that tells us some information about the issue, so what the fox is doing. Then there'll be some reasons for, so this will be the time when our farmers can put their point of view across. These are the reasons why we think Fox should be shot. Then this will be the time when maybe Mrs. Fox can put her point of view across, because these will be the reasons why Fox shouldn't be shot. And then there's a bit of a conclusion at the end where you, as the writer, as the author, get to share your opinion about what you think should happen. Okay, and we're going to be writing one of these discussion texts on Thursday and Friday. So today's about finding out some more about it, from practicing some of the key words that we're going to be using in it, and then we're going to get preparing for writing over the next few days. So first of all, we're going to have a look at a discussion text. So this one isn't about Fox and it's not about being shot, but it's about animals. So it's, do we still need zoos? So some people think we do need zoos. Other people think, no, we don't need zoos anymore. So this is why we have a balanced argument, because we've got two different points of view with this, okay? So I'm going to read it to you, and then we're going to have a little think about what the purpose of this part of the text is. What is it trying to tell us? So that's what I want you to think about while I read it through to you. Okay. Do we still need zoos? Zoos were originally set up so that people could see and learn about the wild animals from distant lands. As more people became city dwellers, never seeing animals in the wild, zoos began to house local animals too. But this has caused some people to become very angry. The issue of whether zoos are morally right remains a major issue, with people raising valid arguments both for and against. Yet a difficult decision must be made. Are zoos really necessary? So what do you think the purpose of this part of the text is? What's its job within the text that we're reading? You're absolutely right to spot it's the introduction. It's telling us a little bit more information about the text that we're going to read. So first of all, it tells us a bit about the subject. So it tells us that zoos were originally set up so that people could learn about animals, and that they housed animals from distant lands and local animals. So it gives us a bit of information. It also tells us why the discussion is really important. So it remains a major issue, with people raising arguments on both sides. So it tells us why it's important for us to even carry on reading. It's enthralling us as part of the reader as well as informing us. Okay, let's read on a little bit more. Okay, so this one is going to give us some reasons why zoos should be banned for good. So 3 reasons. And as I'm reading through, I want you to see if you can listen out for the 3 different reasons that the author gives. I also want you to have a little think about what the author does, perhaps to persuade you even more that they should be closed. Okay, let's read it through. Looking out for 3 reasons, looking out for those tools, those tips, those techniques that the author uses to help persuade you that they should be closed in this particular paragraph. Okay, so on the one hand, some people believe that zoos should be banned for good. Every day, people can see or increase their knowledge of any wild animal in its natural habitat because they can simply tune into a TV programme or buy a video. This has led some animal rights activists to claim that zoos are out of date, even though thousands of people visit them every year. They argue that it's extremely cruel to capture creatures from the wild, transport them over long distances, and then keep them holed up in minuscule cages or enclosures just so human beings can be entertained. Shockingly, zoologist Matt Jenkins, who is a leading expert in this field, has stated that zoochosis, which is abnormal behaviour like rocking or swaying, is often developed by captive animals, which shows they are bored and unhappy in their prison-like conditions. He therefore concludes that it is wrong to keep animals in environments which could cause such stress to them, even if some zoos are trying their best to mimic what life might be like in the wild. So, let's have a little think about those 3 different reasons. Whilst I was reading, was anybody able to spot the 3 different reasons why we should close the zoos? Okay, so did you spot this one? This one says that zoos are out of date. We don't need them anymore. We've got the internet, we've got videos, we've got TVs, we can look at animals online. We don't need a zoo. Okay? Another one you might have spotted is this one, that it's cruel to capture the different creatures from the wild and hold them up in those minuscule cages or enclosures. And then the 3rd one that I spotted was about causing the animals stress. So we did wrong to keep them in environments that could cause such stress. So those were the 3 reasons for closing the zoos. Let's have a little think and see if we can spot how the different animals, how the author tries to persuade us perhaps with this. So the author does this in a couple of different ways. Let's have a look at these. So minuscule cages would be one of them. Prison-like conditions would be another. They're bored and unhappy. Does anybody know what the author's doing here with these types of words and phrases? Okay, you're absolutely right. He's used these words and phrases because they make zoos sound really bad, and they're what we call emotive words and emotive phrases. So what they do is they make us feel bad about the animals being kept in there, so they are helping to persuade us. Another thing that the author does here is he talks to a leading expert, a very important person, someone who knows lots and lots about the subject, and he tells us what he thinks. And that, he therefore concludes here, really helps to show us how to persuade us that this might be the right set of conditions. So we should be banning those zoos altogether. But what makes discussion different from a persuasive text is that it doesn't just give us the reasons why we should close the zoos, it also gives us the reasons why we shouldn't close the zoos too. So let's have a look at those in our next paragraph. Okay, let me just rub that out. Okay. Let's have a look at this one. So while we're looking at this particular text, this is going to give us the 3 reasons against why we should keep the zoos open. And again, I want you to see if you can spot different ways that the author persuades you in this opposite paragraph, because we're giving it the opposite point of view. So it says, on the other hand, many people argue that zoos are still necessary in the modern world. Numerous people state there is a huge difference between watching an animal on a screen and seeing it in real life. It could be argued that visiting a zoo is educational, often increasing people's concern for wildlife and conservation, whereas just watching an animal on television is less inspiring. Indeed, sometimes the only way to save endangered species may be to arrange for it to breed in captivity, so that it can be looked after by specialists and continue to reproduce. Incredibly, more than 32% of animals at risk of extinction have been saved because of the work carried out in zoos. Behind the scenes, zoos also provide scientists with opportunities to research into animal behaviour. Although older zoos might need updating or closing, modern zoos can be much better planned and provide animals with carefully designed enclosures appropriate to their needs. The animal cages can be larger and features added to make them feel like they are still in the wild, with enough space to exercise. Surely these are convincing enough arguments to condone the running of zoos and show how vitally important they can be. So if we have a little think about the reasons against, did you spot 3 reasons why we should keep the zoos open? Okay, so the first one that I spotted is that it's very different watching an animal on screen than it is seeing it in real life. Oh, it's a very wiggly line. Okay, that was the first one that I spotted. The next one that I saw was this one, conservation and endangered species. So what the author's trying to tell us here is that if we don't have them in zoos, then some of these animals are going to die out. So that seems a really good reason to keep zoos open. And then the final one that I spotted was that lots of our modern zoos have enough space to exercise. Okay, so they're stopping that argument that the zoos are too small. Okay. The other thing that I asked you to look out for was how the author helps to persuade you. Now, it does something slightly different here. It does this. Does anybody know what that is? Okay, 32%. It gives us facts and figures. When it gives you facts and figures, it tends to make us as a reader think that it's more real. It's more real life if we've got those facts and those numbers. It also does something down here. and it asks us a question. Surely we can't possibly disagree. And it asks us a direct question. So that really helps us to be persuaded as well. You'll also notice it uses that in that emotive language that we talked about earlier. We've got inspired, we've got endangered, we've got extinction, we've saved the animals. Lots of those words are really, really carefully designed, would be another one. Lots of those words really help us to believe that this might be the best option. Okay, so we're going to have a look at the very last section of this text. So this is our conclusion, okay? So here we go. Oh, there we go. So our conclusion is at the very end of our text, and it is there to sum up the argument and to tell us what the author thinks. So let's find out. It says, in conclusion, having carefully considered both sides of the argument, it seems that there are still arguments for retaining zoos, for keeping zoos open. These should, however, be carefully planned with the animals' welfare in mind, because in the modern world there is no excuse for keeping animals in cramped or cruel conditions. So it tells us that the author wants to keep the zoos, but we've got to make sure we're looking after those animals carefully. So what we're going to have a look at today is thinking about that purpose of the text. So the purpose of the text that we've just read about the zoos is to discuss, and it gives our reader both sides of the argument. It told us why to keep zoos open, and it told us why to close the zoos. And it gives us all of that information so that the reader can make up their own mind. They can decide what they think, and the author gives them their point of view as well. Okay, so how does the author do that? How does he give us both sides of the argument? How does he try to inform us of those different arguments? And how does he try to almost persuade us? Pause the video, have a little think, write down a list of all the different ways that the author tries to inform you and persuade you from the text that we've just looked at. Okay, so let's have a little think. Did you spot any of these? So we talked about the facts and numbers. It was 32%, wasn't it? So we talked about facts and numbers helping to give us that information to inform us. We talked about the expert opinions that we were given as well. We looked at the structure, the conclusion and the introduction. That helps to give us that information. We looked about that persuasive language, that emotive language that made us think that one argument was better than the other. It was also balanced. If you notice, we looked for 3 arguments for and 3 arguments against. It's not one-sided. It doesn't give us more of one than the other, so it gives us a balanced argument. And it also used lots and lots of connectives to show different viewpoints. So things like on the other hand, however, although. It gives us the opposite point of view at the same point in time. We could also have had maybe questions on there, which we had a little look at, that might have added to that as well. So some examples of these from what we saw was that 32% of animals at risk. Our persuasive language were minuscule cages and endangered species. We've got our connectives on the other hand, however, and we'd got that zoologist Matt Jenkins, which was our expert opinion. So today's lesson, we're going to really focus on this one, the connectives which show the different viewpoints. And we're going to have a little bit of a practice with these before we get onto our writing properly. So these are our challenges for today. So challenge 1 is to use conjunctions to show opposition. So you're going to be writing some sentences for me that say some people think this, however, other people think this. Okay? So you're going to use conjunctions to show opposition. Challenge number 2 is to use the conjunctions to show opposition, but you're also going to use conjunctions to show cause as well. So if you have a look at the example section, some people think that computers are better than iPads because, the cause, reason, they have more space to save your work. However, is our opposition, other people think that iPads are better because they are smaller, so, given the reason, you can carry them around more easily. So you're going to write your sentences using both opposition conjunctions and causal conjunctions, okay? If you're really up for the challenge today, you're going to be completing challenge 3 and you're going to be using opposition conjunctions, cause conjunctions and addition conjunctions today for your different arguments. So this goes a little bit like this. Some people think that computers are better than iPads because they have more space to save your work. In addition, adding even more information, they are faster and can do more than iPads. However, giving us the opposite point of view, other people think that iPads are better because they are smaller, so giving us the reason, the cause, you can carry them around more easily and they're great for watching movies on. Okay? So you can choose your level of challenge. You can choose whether you can use just opposition and causal conjunctions, or opposition, causal and addition conjunctions, and these are your arguments. Okay? So your first argument is, are films just as good as books? What I'd like you to do is do some people think that and give me a reason. Other people think that, give me the reasons, and then use your conjunctions, just like in the examples that we looked at. Okay? So pause your video here. And have a go. Okay, ready for your next argument. So, argument number 2. Should chips be banned from the school lunch menu? Okay, same thing. Some people think they should. Some people think they shouldn't. Use your oppositional conjunctions for challenge 1. Oppositional and addition for challenge 2. And oppositional and causal for challenge 2. And oppositional, addition and causal for challenge 3. Pause the video now and come back to me when you've written your answers. Okay, on to challenge number 3 then. So this is our next argument. Should children under 10 have mobile phones? Some people think they should. Some people think they shouldn't. Why do they think they should? Why do they think they shouldn't? Remember, challenge 1, just oppositional conjunctions. Challenge 2, oppositional and causal conjunctions. Challenge 3, all 3 within your sentences to answer that question. Off you go. Okay, so hopefully you should have been able to answer those questions. Remember that you can send them through to Miss Cunnington and Miss Foster on our email addresses, and hopefully you've had a little bit of practice with those causal conjunctions and with those oppositional conjunctions. And we're going to need that learning tomorrow when we start to write our argument. Okay, we're going to go on to our final bit of connected curriculum today. This is the same as we've been doing on Monday and on Tuesday. We're learning about the world, we're learning about countries, we're learning about locations of different things. Remembering, please, that in your work packs, your PDF that's attached to this, you've got all of your different challenges with all of the websites and information that you need. You're either supposed to be making top trumps cards or an interactive world map or an information poster about one of the wonders of the world. We really can't wait to see them. Please make sure you send them in to Miss Cunnington or Miss Foster, and I will see you again tomorrow with another set of challenges. Bye guys, have a great day.